Shalom and welcome. Today I'm having a conversation with Shosh Maoz-Arie. Hi, Shosh.
Hi, Shiri.
Shosh is a life coach and executive coach, and she's also an ADD and ADHD coach. She specializes in coaching people with ADD and ADHD. Today I'm going to speak with Shosh about ADD and ADHD and see if there is a difference between them. A little bit about Shosh. Shosh has been coaching for over 16 years. She coaches individuals, family members, executives, she coaches teams, and she coaches groups. Her background is actually nursing. And on top of all of that, she's also the creators of a fabulous coaching card kit called Value. And it's all about working with values in a very creative and unusual way. So Shalom Shosh. Thank
Hello,
you.
Shiri. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. Great to have you. One more thing, full disclosure, you're also my ADHD coach because I have ADHD.
Yes.
So you have been my coach and my mentor and my teacher. And it's a privilege and a pure pleasure to have you here.
It's the same, darling.
So my dear, let's talk about ADD, ADHD. What is the definition and is there a difference between the two?
Hi, sure. ADHD means attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, which is a neurobiological disorder linked to the dysfunctions of neurotransmitter, which the major of them is dopamine. Mm-hmm. It affects executive functions in life, in whole daily life. The three classic symptoms of ADHD include inattention, impulsivity and hyperactivity, and the third is the combined type.
Okay, so you're talking about a neurological dysfunction?
Yes.
So what I'm hearing is it's not a mental illness.
No.
No, it's a neurological dysfunction. And I'm hearing it has to do with the levels of dopamine in the brain.
Yes.
And you said that there's a hyperactiveness. So could you say a few words about ADD, ADHD, what is the difference? How do we use this terminology?
Yes, actually today there is no difference between the two, but I would say that ADD is a term used to describe symptoms of inattention, of distractibility, and poor working memory. People with ADD are usually introvert, they look shy, or look like they are in their own world. One more thing, ADD is most common in girls and women.
Yeah, women.
And ADHD is a term used to describe additional symptoms of hyperactivity and impulsivity. Clients who have trouble with focusing on school or work, habitually forget appointments, easily lose track of time, a squirmy, impulsive individual, bursting with energy, struggles to wait his or her turn, talkative, fidgety, has nervous energy.
Yeah.
As we can understood, compared to the previous ones, they are extrovert. And the ADHD is most common in boys and men.
And you said that today people don't use the term ADD. Why is that? Where did the...
Yes, because the Shiris we have learned that the age of the hyperactivity is of the brain. So it doesn't matter if you look extrovert or, you're running from place to another.
So I'm hearing that there's a shift in the way we look at hyperactiveness today.
Yes.
So instead of just looking at hyperactive behavior, basically, any person with attention deficit disorder
is actually
has hyperactiveness of the brain and not necessarily hyperactiveness of the behavior.
Yes.
Okay. And you were saying, you're talking about executive functions, and I just want to create clarity because maybe not everybody knows what exactly are executive functions.
Yeah, sure. Executive functions are a collection of skills responsible for turning thoughts into action that help us to manage ourselves successfully in our daily life.
For example,
planning, organization, and execution of activities.
So this means time management,
time management,
resource management,
decision making, resource management, yes, planning, organizing,
all of
and
that.
all of that, yes.
So when we talk about executive functions, we talk about the ability to have a thought, an idea, and execute that into an action plan.
Exactly.
And we all need executive functions to
Yes.
function in everyday life. So attention deficit disorder basically interrupts our executive functions.
Exactly those words. Yeah.
Okay, so how does life with ADHD look like? What are the symptoms of ADHD?
Yes, many. The symptoms are like poor attention and concentration skills, unable to focus on a subject over time, nervousness and inner restlessness with or without outbursts of anger, difficulty completing tasks and persevering in their execution, late to pay bills, reports, etc. Yeah. Poor listening skill, yeah, outburst on others, passivity, get excited easily, react quickly, and move quickly from one situation to another.
Moving on to the next idea.
Yeah, poor attention pattern, poor sleep patterns, often feeling very tired. Yeah, a tendency to addictive behavior, automatic negative thoughts, etc. Yeah.
We also talk about procrastination in this context, right?
Yes, procrastination. Yes, it is easy to distract them from tasks. That's why they are procrastinating.
Yeah.
Tasks.
And also there's something about being overwhelmed with a lot of information. And this I know for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So when I have a lot of tasks, I tend to freeze up. That will show up as procrastination, but actually I'm frozen from the inside. It's just too much.
Too much, yes. It's too much. It's big, it's huge, and then you're paralyzed. You're stuck.
So we talked about ADHD not being a mental illness.
Not illness at all, yeah.
Actually, yeah. So how do you know that you have ADHD? Do you need to get diagnosed? Do you diagnose yourself? What is the process?
Yes, we need actually today people diagnose themselves, they understand that they maybe have ADHD, but we need to diagnose. Yes, for sure you need to diagnose. The diagnosis is made by a psychiatrist, neurologist, or a developmental pediatrician, specialized in ADHD. The three of them must be specialized in ADHD.
Okay. And I know that some people are diagnosed when they're children and some people are diagnosed when they're adults. So obviously the developmental clinician, that's not relevant, for adults, but in both cases, a psychiatrist, not a psychologist, right?
No.
Psychiatrist or neurologist?
Only doctors, medical doctors, which, yes.
Specialize in diagnosing.
Yes, because not of any psychiatrist or any neurologist is specialized with ADHD. People doesn't know it for sure. So they could check.
You need a specialist.
Yes, a specialist. Mm-hmm.
I can share that I was diagnosed by a psychiatrist.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I went to a psychiatrist. I knew he had a background with ADHD, and I was already suspicious. But I went with him because I was going through a major crisis in my life, and I could not gather together my executive functions. I could not organize my time. I could not manage the crisis. It felt like everything in my life was falling apart. Mm-hmm. And I got a recommendation from my life partner who has been living with ADHD for many, many, many years, and he's very knowledgeable. And he said, you know what? Go and speak with a psychiatrist that specializes in ADHD. Listen to that perspective. You might actually have ADHD. And I went and I was diagnosed, and oh my God, what a relief. What a relief.
A very good decision. I prefer people to go to a psychiatrist because of the emotional world of people with ADHD.
Yeah.
Instead of going to a neurologist and then go to psychiatrist, if I need to take care of myself in the psychiatrist area, I should go to a psychiatrist. I recommend going to psychiatrist for adults.
And again, we have to, both of us here have a passion around ADHD, and we both do a lot to create awareness. And again, I've been saying this, and I'm still going to say this again, the fact that this is diagnosed by a psychiatrist that specializes in ADHD does not make this a mental illness.
Sure.
This is not a mental illness. This is a neurological issue of the brain.
Yes,
It has
it's
to do
a
with
disorder. It's a disorder, not illness. Yeah.
So, since I'm a medical coach, and a lot of the people that are going to be listening to this actually are medical coaches or health coaches, let's talk a little bit about the connection between ADHD and health.
Yeah, there's a close connection between the two. An undiagnosed ADHD is a fertile ground for a development of depression or anxiety. ADHD is usually accompanied by at least one psychiatrist or other disorder, regardless of age, like depression, anxiety, OCD, tics, and Tourette syndrome. Increase of use of alcohol and drugs, conduct disorder, and antisocial behavior. Other disorders that may co-occur with ADHD are learning disability like dyslexia, dyscalculia, dysgraphia, sleep disorder, and bedwetting as well. It is important to treat, that's something I must say, it's important to treat the accompanying psychiatrist disorder because they affect person's life, quality of life, and functioning sometimes even more than the ADHD itself. Okay, so we must pay attention and take care of it.
So we both know that the professional terminology for this is comorbidity, meaning comorbidity means that you have one condition, whether it's a disorder or an illness, and that will draw to it like a magnet, other disorders and other conditions and other illnesses. So you've been talking about comorbidity that has to do with the brain, basically. Other kind of disorders and with the emotions, so anxiety and depression and OCD sometimes, and learning disabilities, and maybe other psychiatric disorders, and issues. And I want to touch the health comorbidity, because when people are struggling with their executive functions and they need to manage a health condition or an illness, then basically what we see is people that are really struggling with adherence, taking medication on time, keeping their checkup, maintaining healthy lifestyle, making all of these changes that are not comfortable, that needs follow-up and stuff like that. And many times when I work with clients that are really struggling around healthy lifestyle issue, losing weight, starting to exercise, changing their diet, taking the medication on time, remembering to do tests on time, I usually listen for ADHD because that will explain a lot. Which brings me to the next question, which is, why is it so important for coaches to be aware of ADHD? But before we're going to go there, okay, actually, I want to ask you about the gifts. Because the gifts are also important for the last question. So what are the gifts?
It's important to know the gift, yes. Here's the partial list of them. Creativity. First and most of all, creativity and thinking outside the box. Curiosity. Yes, which allows them to check more and more into
investigate. What else is possible? How can I do this?
Yes.
What's behind the wall?
It's an interesting
the door.
Yes, I would like to learn about this and this and this. Everything is interesting. Develop imaginary. Yeah, imagination. Yeah. Adventurism. They are very, very adventurous.
Yep.
Yes. Sense of humor, spontaneity, hyperfocus. From one side we have the unfocused. Yes, they are not focused. From the other side we have the hyperfocus when something is interesting for them.
So this is something I'd like to pause here, okay? Because this is another, there are a lot of stigmas around ADHD, and many times people think, well, people with ADHD have no ability to focus whatsoever. And what you're saying is that on the one hand, when things are not very interesting, okay, there is a difficulty harnessing the focus, okay, getting that dopamine level up so I can actually focus on doing boring assignments.
Exactly. Yeah.
And on the other hand, when I'm curious and there's something that's absolutely interesting for me, then then I get super interested and I get super focused, what we call in ADHD hyperfocus.
Hyperfocus, yes.
And then, it's like nothing exists but this thing that I'm focused on.
Yeah.
The world is dead.
Which, for example, we can think about people, let's say, a doctor which make an operation and need to be focused on exactly on what he's doing right now. The hyperfocus is exactly the gift that he needs. And
it's a superpower.
Yeah.
It's an absolute superpower. So now that we also talked about the gifts, let's go back to coaching. We're both coaches. Now, we both, I've studied ADHD coaching. You are one of the top specialists in Israel for ADHD coaching. And I know most of the people, in this area in Israel and outside of Israel. So, but both of us have a passion to take this outside the niche of ADHD coaching.
Yes.
So let's talk about that. Why is it important that life coaches, executive coaches, health coaches, medical coaches are aware of ADHD and how that might show up in the coaching space?
First of all, because you meet quite a few people with ADHD every day in every setting, and you should know how to help them or know what to do and who to turn to for help.
Yep.
That is the short and simple answer I can tell you.
Yeah.
The extended answer is you probably know people whose behavior is that characterized with people with ADHD, distractions, diffuse attention, poor time management, all we talked about before. Yeah. You work with different clients. Some of them are able to move forward and achieve the results they want. Some of them are stuck. They begin enthusiastically, but do not progress towards success. You give your best as a professional in order to motivate your clients to the place they want. And then you discover that there's no connection between the extent of investment in the client, his potential, and the result he reaches.
Yeah.
You are frustrated, sometimes feel guilty, do not understand what I'm not doing right, that I'm not able to motivate this client. Okay.
And it's a huge sense of frustration for coach and client. And the one thing that's really important to say here is that when someone, exhibits a behavior of procrastination or they're stuck, and the core issue is ADHD, you really need an additional tool set. You really need additional coaching skills to help these clients get unstuck. It's a different way of motivating these clients, and it's a different way of supporting them.
Yes, we need additional and appropriate tools. Okay, appropriate to their brain. Okay? Otherwise, you will not succeed them with their clients.
And I want to say something else. There is medication for ADHD. The medication is not available in every country. And this is why coaching is so important, because first of all, when we have a client that actually is taking medication for ADHD, they're taking Ritalin or there's a variety of medication, coaching really, really creates synergy. Coaching comes in and really supports and helps this client. And when this client is living in a country where it's impossible or nearly impossible to get medication, whether it's not regulated or it's not approved or it's really expensive, coaching is the next best thing. And people with and sometimes without medication, even though, as ADHD coaches, we always say, if you can get medication, get the medication, okay? Because medication helps.
But the field doesn't give you the skills. And the skills we are learning in coaching.
So the pill will regulate, but it will not give you the skills. And coaching will give you the skills.
Exactly, yes.
And that's really, really important. So the power of coaching in this area is really, really significant. And again, we go back to that experience of not being able to help a client, bringing in everything that you have, and you just not being able to figure this out and feeling so frustrated, and the client leaving the process with yet another failure to add to the list. Because one
Yes.
thing that that we didn't mention is that people that have been living for many years with ADHD have a long list of failures behind them.
Yes, and you will be one of a group, of professionals that worked with him and did not succeed.
I did not succeed.
Yeah, and you don't want to be in that place. You want to be in the place that help and assist your client to fulfill its potential.
Mm-hmm.
So while you have the appropriate tools, you can do
You
it.
need to have the appropriate tools. You need to have the
Yes.
appropriate tools. And we see that more and more in coaching. And we know that a large percentage of the population is living with different degrees of ADHD. And more and more
We
people
are talking
are
about in between 12 to 15% of ADHD in the whole world population.
Mhm.
But we suppose that those are only the diagnosed ones. That we suppose that there's a high percentage of people who does not
Why not
diagnose.
diagnose? And
Or
in
the-
many countries, there are no specialists available. So people are really not
There are
being
no
diagnosed.
awareness at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're going through their lives feeling like failures, feeling that they're stupid, feeling that they don't know how to learn, they cannot commit, they don't know how to manage their times, and they could benefit so much
Yes.
from a
Yes.
coach that actually has those additional skills. Wow. Shosh, so what would we like to, how would we like to wrap this up? This was such an important conversation. How would you like to wrap this up?
I would like to say that ADHD is not a fate. And I'm enthusiastic to have with you, of course, that we will help, we will assist people with ADHD, as I said before, to fulfill their potential, because they are the people, they are the brains that our world needs today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We definitely, looking at these times, we definitely need people that can ask the questions that aren't being asked.
Can think outside the box.
Think outside the box. Yeah.
Think outside the box and solve problems very, very creatively and quickly.
And quickly. And have the courage.
And have the
To
courage.
do all the above.
And there's no answer for them. I think it's a very, very important quality of for people.
So we need more people with ADHD so we can help them shift from the challenge to the gift so they can enjoy the gifts.
Yeah.
And you and I are preparing a training for coaches to help coaches add these unique skills to their toolbox and help more and more clients. So
I would love to do it with you, Shiri.
Yeah, we are going to do that. We definitely have a message and a
honor
plan
for me,
to us.
guys.
Shosh, my dear, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Shiri, for inviting me again. Thank you.
It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I hope you like this. And if you have questions and if you're interested in our training, please tick the box, send me an email, contact me through Facebook or social media. And enjoy the training. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.